Ahead of today's inauguration of the 10th National Assembly, President Bola Tinubu, who seemed determined to get candidates of the All Progressives Congress, APC, elected as presiding officers, has begun to pull all stops in their favor in ensuring that both Godswill Akpabio and TJ Abbas are elected Senate President and Speaker of the House of Representatives, respectively. This decision also included their deputies, who were Barao Jibril as the Deputy Senate President and Benjamin Kalu as the Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives. The President was said to have instructed everyone, especially the governors elected on the platform of his party, to get to work as well as liaise with their counterparts in the opposition parties with a view to making sure that the APC has its way today during the election of the presiding officers. On the eve of the inauguration of the 10th National Assembly, President Tinubu met with the governor of Imo State and chairman of the APC Governors Forum, Hope Uzodinma. The governor says a committee set up by President Tinubu to resolve the leadership dispute has made significant progress. Akpabio has assured Nigerians of a united 10th Senate.
And we had a useful discussion with Mr. President. And the outgoing Senate President has also committed to working to ensure that our preferred candidate for the position will be elected tomorrow. So it is a very big development that the political harmony will eventually guide tomorrow's process. So the political party, which is APC, working with other political parties, because what is at stake is national interest, the interest of our country, and how to ensure that the new president is supported to succeed.
I assure you that every senator is important, and there is no political party once I'm inside there. Everybody is important, and all political parties shall be carried along. In the business of politics, not everybody will be on the same page. But here we have over 90% of people supporting the choice of the party. And I believe that even those that are not on board, I assure them that I will carry them on board.
It's D-Day, Rufai.
D-Day. D-Day landing. Okay, we're there finally. What are the issues? Number one, APC has a candidate is rallied around. That's Senator Godswill Akpabio, which some opponents have said all sorts of things about. What are the things they've said about him? Oh, he did not respect a lot of senators in the past, the NDDC debacle and all of that, which some of his supporters have come to clear the case on. Then there's former Governor Yari. Governor Yari brings in a big war chest. He's ready. He's publicized himself. He's taken it on. He's bought television time, goodness me, that you would think this is a presidential election in the first place. And what he's saying is that he has done a lot for himself and has done a lot in the States. And hence, when I asked him the question, what did he do in the States? And there was a pushback. The surprising thing is that I saw one of his documentaries yesterday on TV, where he was actually answering the question I did ask him about the things he has done in the States, and that should stand him in a better stead. So I'm sure he got the memo afterwards. But apart from that, people are pushing against him and saying, you have no right to come here because you're not a ranking senator. But he's, touting Section 50 that says the Senate must pick their leader. There's also Mr. Ojuzokal on one side, that is saying, yes, there must be a case made for the Southeast. There are also other ranking senators in the Southeast. There's also the hypocrisy of the argument, which all of a sudden the APC is saying, yeah, for the sake of balancing, let us have a Christian Senate president. I'm like, hello? Really? This is the same party that said, religion doesn't matter. And he has a Muslim ticket. Religion does not matter at all. But now we are hearing Christian senators should vote the way of Akpabio. They should stand for the truth. In fact, a statement was ascribed to somebody high up there that says, the worst of a Christian Senate president is better than the best of a Muslim Senate president. All of a sudden, now they know that religious balancing matters. And that's why I keep telling Nigerians, if you believe what politicians say, you are the fool in the game. I think it was Warren Buffett that says, if you get into a game, if you see people playing the game of poker and you don't know who the party is, then definitely probably you are the one. That's it, pure and simple. And Nigerians have been playing in that game of poker. But most likely, let me stick my neck out and make a prediction. Most likely, the APC will get their way. Probably, Mr. Akpabio might emerge, but it's going to be a fight to finish. All right? because they will want to consolidate and they will not want to show, the APC will not want to show that there's disarray in their party. And if another person, apart from the person the party did rally round, gets it, it's going to show the fractures in their party. So most likely, Mr. Akpabio is going to get it. But the question is, what would all of this fight portend for the party? Would the party be able to rally themselves round after all of this fight to be able to heal and project for the future? And whoever emerges as Senate president, please remember, you are there for the Nigerian people. You are not there to be a rubber stamp. We do not want an idea where you are just accent to anything the executive passes your way. Please be very careful. You should be there in the interest of the Nigerian people. But we're going to see a lot of horse trading. We're going to see a lot of drama. It's going to play out. And goodness me, like I always say, it's a day we here as broadcasters look forward to because it's one of the longest days in our calendar. And goodness me, the die is cast. Let's do it. Let's get ready to rumble.
Well, look, even in the United States, the appointment of principal officers of the Congress could be very political, could result in a lot of contentions. We saw what happened when McCarthy was going to emerge as Speaker of the House of Reps in the United States. So a lot of jostling, a lot of horse trading, and all of that. So in terms of the contest of the issues involved, it seem to be familiar. But what should be more important in this particular instance should be the interest of Nigeria. What is regrettable is that here, our personal interest, party interest, will seem to be overriding the national interest. That is number one fear in this regard. Because the contestation over leadership positions in the National Assembly will seem now to have been reduced to personalities, to ego, with one group saying we're entitled to it, another group saying, oh, we are also entitled to it, certain other factors do not matter. It is this sense of entitlement that frightens us as Nigerians. The legislature is supposed to elect for the purpose of good governance and making laws for the order, good governance, and peace and stability in Nigeria. In all of this, as is characteristic in Nigeria, nobody has talked about these underlying principles, but rather, it is this person that should be there, it is not that person that should be there. But today is the day. There doesn't seem to be as much confusion at the House of Reps as there is at the Senate level, even if there are persons like Jibril, coming up at the House of Reps and saying, he is also good enough and he will not step down. But I don't think that the contestation at the House of Reps is as serious as that of the Senate. But today, the president will proclaim the inauguration of the 10th Assembly in line, as we were told yesterday by Akpabio Bamidele, who was on this program, in line with Section 64 of the Constitution. Now, Akpabio Bamidele made a point yesterday. He talked about Section 60. He talked about Section 311, which speak to the point that the Senate will make its own rules and follow its own standing orders in determining its own affairs. There's a booby trap there. The booby trap there is that with all the talk about Abdulaziz Yari, Osita Ozunaso, and other people being interested, if the Senate decides to apply that standing order in line with Section 311, which Akpabio Bamidele argued on this program yesterday, is not in conflict with Section 50, what will happen is that Yari and his supporters could be excluded. Now, if that exclusion occurs, would that, have good implications for the APC, the unity of the party itself? That remains to be seen. So it may be one thing to have your way, it's another thing to be able to unify the party. But whatever happens at the end of the day, what Nigerians are looking forward to is a legislative assembly, a national assembly that will work in line with its original purpose for the good governance of Nigeria. Not a national assembly leadership that will be toing and froing from the villa to go and pay homage and report to the headmaster, but a legislative assembly that will be committed to the fundamental objectives for which it was created. As you can see in the video that was shown, I see that the body language has already started. Look at Akpabio there, beaming with smiles and wearing a Yoruba cap. He has changed his attire all of a sudden, just to reassure the president that he's a honorary Yoruba man. Well, I hope he too will not start claiming that he's a Lagosian. He will get the appropriate response. Even Ganduje, I saw him earlier on. He too is already wearing the Emilokon cap. You see these politicians, they make this thing look like some kind of joke, But Akpabio has charisma. He has the gift of the gab. He has connections. He has experience. Abdulaziz Yari is also claiming that he has the credentials and that, being a Muslim should not be a matter to be considered. But Nigerians are looking at all these fine details with the expectation that whatever the politicians do at the end of the day, that their primary interest will be to serve the people, not to wear compliant headgears, compliant caps, just to show off, to deceive the president, to show that they are loyal. No, we're not interested in their personal loyalties. We're interested in their loyalty to the nation. And today the country will be watching. And I'm sure that by tomorrow morning, we'll be in a place to review what has transpired today, what will transpire today, and the implications for the future of our country.
Well, here we are. Today is D-Day, like I mentioned earlier on, and the weeks and perhaps months of campaigns, conversations, deliberations as to who would be the next Senate President of Nigeria would be decided today. Now, interestingly, it will be decided only by members of the House. And I say this interestingly because, as you mentioned, Rufai, we have seen adverts and we have seen, conversations speaking to the Nigerian people and positioning themselves in terms of the candidates as to why they are the best fit for that position. But again, we have reiterated it on the show that the decision lies in the hands of the members of the House. So as much as we might decide and think, okay, this person is good for the position, it is the members who would decide today. Also, we see, as I had mentioned earlier on, that the president has been very intentional about demonstrating where his alliance is. They had said it through the National Working Committee that the president was aligning with Senator Akpabio and the other members that the APC had anointed. But he had kept, he had focused on other matters, other state matters. But in the days leading to today, the 13th of June, 2023, the president has been a bit more obvious in terms of his stance. Last week, we reported that he met with members-elect, senators-elect, and House and representatives-elect in Aso Rock. Unfortunately, Senator-elect Abdulaziz Yari did not turn up, and this also gave rise to the speculations that he was still very much not going to align with what the APC had decided in terms of who should become the Senate president. So he has not relented on that fact. Yesterday, I posed a question to Senator Opeyemi Bamidele, asking him if there would be a last-minute, reconciliation, last-minute dialogue or conversation for the unity of the party and to strengthen the party. And he said, well, we can't close off that conversation. We don't know what will happen in the next few hours to see if there will be any consolidation at all. It doesn't look likely. It doesn't look likely, especially with Senator-elect Abdulaziz Yari. However, there are also speculations around the fact that perhaps former Governor Yari might come into conversation with the other parties who are still vying for this position. By these other parties, I'm talking about Senator Orji Uzor Kalu and Mr. Izunazo, as to whether he might approach them to offer them the position of Deputy Senate President to buy in their loyalty and consolidate on that front to go against the anointed candidates of the APC. So at the end of the day, we cannot clearly state who is going to win because it is still very contentious up until the last minute, which makes it very interesting. But again, one thing we've said on this show again and again, over and over again, is that what we're hoping is that it won't be politics for the senators. At the end of the day, what we're looking forward to, as has been said, is national interest. And national interest there's not a code word for personal interest or a code word for party interest. It is indeed national interest. What is in the interest of Nigerians? And hopefully the line or the bright light here is that when there are contentions like this, sometimes the Nigerian people win. Sometimes these agitations ensure that they being at loggerheads means that one way or the other, the Nigerian people emerge as the winner. Of course, President Tinubu would want his ally as Senate President, someone who would make his work as President a bit easier. But again, maybe a challenge to that might come in very handy for the Nigerian people in the person of an opposition or someone who wasn't anointed by him. Well, we will know at the end of today who will emerge as Senate President, Deputy Senate President, Speaker of the House of Representatives, Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, and other presiding officers. I'll move on to the next story now. President Bola Tinubu has signed into law the Student Loan Bill. The Student Loan Bill, sponsored by the Speaker of the 9th House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, passed the third reading at the House 2 weeks ago. The law is to provide easy access to higher education for indigent Nigerians through interest-free loans from the Nigerian Education Loan Fund. President Tinubu's aide, Dele Alake, made the announcement at the State House.
And that students' loans bill, you all know what it entails, what it connotes, the meaning. This is a promise made during the presidential campaign by the then candidate, His Excellency Bola Tinubu, that he would bring back the issue of the student loans issue onto the front burner. And today, that promise he made has been kept.
A bill tells you what should be done. The how of it will be done is what we are going to put together. And the good luck is that we have experience already in this area. We already have a federal scholarship board scheme running. But the difference this bill makes is that it's going to be a loans board so that people that don't even have, for whatever reason, don't qualify, could be able to apply for a loan.
Well, we have our business correspondent, Rotus, joining us for this conversation on the student loan. Welcome, Rotus. Good morning.
Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Rufai. Good morning, Doctor. Yeah, so let's jump into it. As far as so look, 15 days now, there's an article in Bloomberg with respect to what the president has ticked off now. And now this is, I guess, third on the list with respect to what these, major announcements. So you've got the removal of fuel subsidies, suspending the CBN governor, and now the Student Loan Act. So we can jump into it. As far as what the act is referring to, it refers to, of course, access to education, access to higher education Act 2023, repealing the Nigerian Education Bank Act from 1993. Interest-free loans, as you just heard, applicable for public universities, eligible for tuition fees, and then it establishes the Nigerian Education Loan Fund. And we can get into the fund itself. The fund is going to be domiciled with the Central Bank of Nigeria. It's going to be managed and administered by the CBN, and the CBN is going to do that through money deposit banks in terms of administering the loan, disbursing it, and so on and so forth. There's going to be a committee chaired by the Central Bank Governor. He or she will appoint a secretary of the fund. Also on the committee will be the Minister of Education, the Chair of the National University Commission, and a representative of the VC Forum of all Nigerian universities, also polytechnics as well. More representatives, committee members, Minister of Finance or representative for the Minister, the Auditor General for the Federation, Nigeria Labour Congress representative from the Nigerian Bar Association, and ASU, Academic Staff Union of Universities. This is very key here. As far as the funding sources, you heard Mr. Alake talk about the how. So education bonds will be issued. There's going to be endowment fund schemes, 1% of taxes from the Federal Inland Revenue Service, Immigration, Customs, also 1% of government profits from oil and minerals. Talked about the mining sector and how that has also struggled. Eligibility requirements. You got to have a proof of school enrollment in that higher institution, all polytechnics or vocational institutions that are government owned. Then the threshold is income of 500,000 naira a year. That breaks down to about 41,000 naira a month. That's the
like
threshold.
The cost of a bag of rice a month.
Yeah, so that's the threshold they're using for those who require the funding. So if this is what you're earning, then you would qualify for that. And then at least, for the students.
For the students.
No, for the students. So
For the
it's
students.
either for the students or whoever is going to be funding the student that is going to get the loan is.
So that's the family income.
Right, family income. Then if you get the triggers for disqualification, if you have a previous loan default by the students or the parents, also any incident of exam malpractice, any felony convictions, and then drug offense convictions, you get disqualified. And then as far as the loan processing, they're saying, and this is pretty quick, they're saying 30 days of processing and disbursement from when it reaches the chair, which is, I guess, the CBN governor. And then your repayment starts 2 years after you finished your youth corps. And then they are going to deduct from source. So it's going to be 10% of your salary deduction if you get a corporate job, or if you are self-employed, it'll be 10% of your profits. And then part of the law, it says there, if you will, and this, I guess this may be open to interpretation. If you willfully, I'm not sure how this would be proved, but if you try to default on the loan, then there's going to be a 2-year imprisonment or a 500,000 naira fine, or both. Now, so look, the president made the promise. It's here. There was a report we had, Rise News had about 6-7 months ago, leading up to the elections, as to how this would be funded. Right, remember that, yeah. How that would be funded. So there it is. I guess, look, this is a lot of spending. If you think about, there's estimated 1.7 to 2.1 million students in government-funded universities here. Depending on how you break down who can afford it, interest-free loans in this environment, it's going to be a lot of spending on the part of the government. Also, the whole part of 2 years to start paying back after you complete your youth corps. That means there's a 2-year window to get a job. Right. So you got to get a job within that time. Now, that is going to be an incentive or a trigger for the government to try to make sure that there is an employable environment, because youth unemployment is 54% as of the Q4 2020 numbers from the Bureau of Statistics. Overall unemployment is 33%. So the government has to really move fast to make sure that there is an environment for jobs. Now, maybe there will be concessions. If you can't find a job within 2 years, maybe you don't start paying, and so on and so forth. And then there's also the issue of, if you maybe lose your job down the line, what happens to the monthly payments? Because that automatically triggers a default if you are not able to pay back. So will you then be in prison for 2 years or have to pay that fine? So, there's that. And so when you think about the inflationary environment, when you think about the amount of students, there's still a lot that has to be broken down here, but he's fulfilled his promise, in terms of getting this on paper and getting this out.
So fulfilled promise, signed into law, but let's extrapolate. That bill had been on even before the campaign started, 2019. It was just happenstance that it was completed at this time and it was passed. If you look at the old iteration of that bill, it's been on for 2019. So fulfilling its promise is highly contestable. It's a bill that has been on since the start of the last administration. That's number one.
Okay.
Number two, a bill is a law is a living document, so there has to be other further iterations. Rosus, I do not see the practicality of that 500K threshold family earnings. I think it has to be bumped up to about $1 million, because what you're saying is that the family will be earning about 41,000 naira every month if that they are earning 500K. So if like a security, the father of the person is a security man that earns 50,000 naira every month, you will say it's not indigent, but it's really indigent because that money doesn't go anywhere.
So wait, hold on. You're saying, so that threshold, again, remember, you're looking at students. So look, the reason why they're doing this here, they don't want to fund tuition for schools anymore. This issue where you've been falling into problems with ASU, right? So wait, hold on. What that means is that the schools now, I think there's a university in Taraba, I can't remember which one, that has jacked up students' tuition. Fees, right. So if you cannot afford to pay the increase in tuition, you will now be eligible for the loan.
I get it.
That 500,000, remember, you're dividing it into 12 annual per annum. Yeah. So it is somebody who earns at least 41,000 per month.
So that's what I'm saying. I'm saying if I earn 50,000,
okay,
Rotus by Nigeria standards a month, we are very indigent.
Okay.
So there are people that earn 50,000 that might not be able to pay for that jack-up in tuition fee, which ASU is kicking against, because ASU is saying this is a way federal government is abdicating their responsibility. That's why ASU shut it down. They call it monumental failure then. So if I'm earning 50,000, because my earning in a month, in a year where you calculate it, will be 600,000 times 12, I'm still very indigent. I might not have the money to fund the university education. So that means this thing does not qualify me.
Right, but then you are counting people who earn at least 50,000, but then you have to now look at the threshold for the number of people who fall under the 40,000.
So what I'm saying is, at some point, they will have to increase the threshold so that more people may fall under it.
Which is more, it makes it more expensive for the government.
Yeah,
right,
so they have to increase the threshold because it will be useless to people. Because when you look at it, that will still seem that you are very below the line. Secondly, is the implementation. Rotus, this is not new. In 1971, we had this. Decree number 25, the Education Bank of 1993. We also had things like the People's Bank, headed by Tansholari and Maria Shokenu. The question is, why didn't it work? What about the other government rigmarole?
Right.
And how do you even pay back in an economy where things are very tight? So those are the things. When I saw the threshold there, I saw the 500K threreshold. Just reminds me of the 500 pound threshold. Are you okay?
Just very quickly, we have to go.